The young man accidentally obtained a book of shadows, and he also acquired extraordinary abilities by chance. The book suggests that the end of the world is approaching. What should he do? Who is the true son of destiny, the transcendent, the reborn, and the extraordinary? After the end of the world, the beginning of hegemony. Chapter 1. Funeral. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the evening, a faint moonlight shone on a young man in his 20s. He was tall and slender, wearing a black windbreaker with a high collar, and a sense of loneliness arose naturally. On her fair face, her facial features are three-dimensional, and deep eyes reveal a faint sadness. In addition, bathed in moonlight, it adds a touch of handsomeness and mystery. Why stand alone on the rooftop? The temperature has dropped these days, and the wind tonight is strong. You need to wear more clothes. Fortunately, it's not very cold. Okay then, you can stay on your own for a while longer and go back later. Thank you, Auntie. I know. The autumn wind rustled, but was defeated by the loneliness in his heart. Jiang Lin smiled slightly in response. Knowing that my nephew must be feeling uneasy now, I wanted to comfort him a few words, but I didn't know where to start talking. Seeing this, Jiang Fenglian stopped saying much and turned around to receive the guests who came to offer condolences to her mother. Everyone has their own role, so what is my mission? Jiang Lin took out the black book that his grandmother handed him before his death, stared at it for a long time, and slowly recalled his past interactions. Jiang Lin was raised by his grandparents since childhood and has a strong affection for them. Saying that grandparents are one's own parents is actually quite different. As for one's own biological parents, that's another story. My mother and father gave birth to Jiang Lin when they were unmarried, but they left without saying goodbye just after Jiang Lin was weaned. Perhaps it's because her family doesn't agree, or maybe she has a more desirable partner. The truth told by relatives varies, and opinions are divided. The only thing Jiang Lin could understand was that his mother had abandoned him and there was no news from then on. As for Jiang Lin's father, although he suffered for a while due to his wife's departure, he quickly found a better wife again. I formed a new family with my new wife, and the couple is down to earth, working hard, and living a fulfilling life. Originally, this was understandable. Whether it was Jiang Lin's father or mother, their families were very happy and they all had their own new lives. In their own hearts, they may have already let go of each other, but Jiang Lin seems to have become an unnecessary one. Although that is the case, Jiang Lin rarely feels sad for himself, because the extra Jiang Lin is not unnecessary in the eyes of his grandparents. He has a grandfather who loves him and a grandmother who loves him. He still remembers that every time his grandfather went home to help others with physical work, he would always take out a pile of snacks from his pocket, which he secretly brought back for Xiao Jianglin to eat. If other children have it, my family Jianglin also needs it. This is the sense of security that my grandfather brought to Jianglin. Whenever encountering unhappy things, such as being ridiculed or bullied, Grandpa may go to that house to find a place, but Jiang Lin's grandmother chooses to enlighten Jiang Lin. Everything has a fixed destiny. As a person, one should choose to learn to accept these things, not envy others, but envy oneself. Although many times Jiang Lin couldn't understand his grandmother's profound truths, and even during a period of growing up, Jiang Lin's impression of his grandmother was that of a nagging old lady. But whenever he encounters something he cannot handle, Jiang Lin still thinks of his grandmother's guidance first. Many people in the village don't like Grandma. They think Grandma is a wizard and can bring bad luck to the village, but Grandma never mind. She lives her life as she wants. Grandma gives Jiang Lin the impression of an old lady who understands everything and is very open-minded. When I was young, my grandmother always held Jiang Lin in her arms and said some strange things. Although Jiang Lin didn't understand at that time, those days were really warm. Later, first and foremost, Grandpa left silently. At that time, Jiang Lin was still sleeping in his college dormitory and felt the departure of his loved ones for the first time. It's like the sky is falling, tears are breaking through the embankment, and then it's hard to imagine that this is a fact. And this is the passing of my grandmother, who collapsed in front of Jiang Lin. Before her death, my grandmother handed Jiang Lin a thick, dusty black book that is Grandma Jiang Lin's most precious book, and it is also a book that makes the villagers believe that Grandma is a wizard. It is rumored that this book contains many unspeakable mysteries, but whether it is true or false cannot be clearly stated. Grandma watched as Jiang Lin took the book and stopped speaking, her breath cut off, but she walked peacefully, as she herself said, "It's all a fixed number." But this time, Jiang Lin no longer collapsed like the first time, because he knew that death was not the end, it was just an alternative beginning. Death was not scary, what was scary was the unknown, and what was scary was not doing anything while alive. Grandma told him a lot about this before his death, and in this moment, Jiang Lin seemed to have figured it out a bit. Jiang Lin's gaze became resolute. The autumn wind sweeps the fallen leaves, let my only shackle in this world dissipate with this funeral. Jiang Lin spoke softly to himself in a seemingly open-minded tone. The funeral was held for 3 days and 3 nights, and people from all walks gradually got enough to eat and drink. Even the son of the funeral owner left early due to busy work. Looking at these so-called relatives and friends, Jiang Lin could only sneer in his heart. Apart from his own few aunts, who really came to pay their respects. They are all hypocritical people. In the past, due to the weak power of the Jiang Lin family, these guys bullied us a lot. These people would use their words to take advantage of all the advantages of Jiang Lin's grandparents. The grandfather who bullied Jiang Lin was honest and spread rumors that Jiang Lin's grandmother was a wizard, so he caught these so-called handles to grab land and land. Before leaving, Jiang Lin's father said to Jiang Lin, "Study hard, I will take care of your living expenses every month. Your grandparents have left, take care of yourself in the future, and you will also be an adult." A middle-aged man with a slightly overweight figure and even a slightly hunched figure was smoking an unknown brand cigarette while patting Jiang Lin's shoulder. He spoke to Jiang Lin with a hint of melancholy. Looking at his father, whom he couldn't see for a year, Jiang Lin was also somewhat unsure of how to react. Old-style leather shoes, a dim yellow belt, a wrinkled shirt, and half of his already white hair all indicate that his father is not living as he imagined. Just thinking about it, working in a first-tier city, even if there are 2 sons to support besides Jiang Lin, coupled with the pressure of housing and car loans, it is indeed enough to make a middle-aged man feel overwhelmed. After silently listening to his father's final teachings, Jiang Lin wanted to say something, but ultimately did not speak, just lowered his head. Returning to his own room, Jiang Lin opened the black book again. The contents of the book, apart from white papers, were still indistinguishable no matter how he read them. Is it about shedding blood to acknowledge the master? Jiang Lin couldn't help but think of what the protagonists of those fantasy-themed works did. Give it a try, there's no other way. With a painless embroidery needle, he pierced the fingertip of his middle finger. In an instant, bright red blood dripped into the blank page, and with a click, the black book suddenly burst into a dazzling light. There are words, indeed there are words. Jiang Lin exclaimed excitedly. 1 year later, the end of the world will come. The simple 8 words shocked Jiang Lin, who was excitedly lost in thought. What was going on? What does this book mean? Is it true that, as the book says, the end of the world is coming in a year? Although the concept of the end of the world was very popular in the past few years, due to repeated failures, people have lost interest in the topic of the end of the world. Is it true this time? Or is there anything strange about this book? Although the world where Jiang Lin is located has not yet achieved true unity, it has already been under the jurisdiction of the highest world government and has not experienced major wars for hundreds of years. With the highly advanced technology, truly controllable nuclear fusion has been achieved, and people no longer need to launch any aggressive wars under the pretext of resource scarcity. According to different geographical orientations, this continent can be roughly divided into four forces, namely: Eastern, Glorious Empire Western, Steel Alliance Northern, Avi Federation Southern. Dagger Empire. Jiang, on the other hand, lives in the Glorious Empire to the east of the world, and his current identity is just an ordinary college student at Huafei University. Even if I know the end of the world is coming, what else can I do? As a poor college student, I have neither the ability nor the financial resources, and with this special family background, what else can I do? Moreover, the truth of what is said in this book still needs to be verified. Forget it, let's think about how to establish a foothold in society in the future. Jiang Lin's complaints are not unreasonable. Unlike the wealthy second generation in the city, going to college is just icing on the cake. He comes home with his parents' house, car, and tickets waiting to be inherited. Jiang Lin's father had explicitly stated to him that the money he gave Jiang Lin would only support him until he graduated from university, and as for the future, it had nothing to do with him. As a father, he also did his best. After all, he had two other sons to raise himself. Considering that his father could fulfill this agreement under the eyes of his stepmother, I actually felt that it was almost there. There was no one who owed anyone, so Jiang Lin quickly felt relieved. Although my father nominally said that Jiang Lin's living expenses would be paid to him on a monthly basis in the future, I really can't relax my mind on how to operate it. I should try to find another way out as soon as possible. Chapter 2. The Crosser Lin Jiechen. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The sun continued to rise as usual, time and time again, and soon it was time to return to school. As for the prophecies in the Black Book, Jiang Lin had already forgotten them. Although the end of the world was scary, the life before him made Jiang Lin even more worried. Jiang Lin is already in his third year, and in class, he is focused on searching online for ways to earn money. I'm not willing to accept it. A sudden cry of surprise shattered the originally peaceful classroom atmosphere. The old professor on the podium, who was reciting the PPT that had not been changed for 10 years, was also startled. The old professor supported his reading glasses while searching for the source of the sound. The students in the class also stopped their assistants and gathered their gaze on a male student in a black coat in the back row, with a bangs covering one eye. At this moment, Wuji, who was a bit confused, seemed to realize something. I'm really sorry, I was just sleeping when a spider scared me. Everyone, keep going. Wuji reacted promptly, apologizing while laughing awkwardly. After speaking, the classroom atmosphere returned to its usual state. The top students sitting in the front row listened attentively and immediately resumed taking notes with their pens. The students sitting in the back row continued to watch short videos, while those who needed to sleep continued to fall asleep. Do you feel that this classmate is a bit strange? No, I just tell you to read fewer novels on weekdays. It's not good if you get addicted to it. Don't make a fuss. If you don't move, you won't receive any money for this order. No, let's not worry about the game for now, seriously. I really feel like this guy's performance just now was a bit like those reincarnated protagonists in novels. Roommate Lin Jiechen's reminder reminded Jiang Lin of the words from the Black Book, but soon he shook his head and smiled at Lin Jiechen, who looked serious. Even if so, what? With our current identity, are you still planning on hoarding or something? You're right, Lin Jiechen touched his head, feeling a bit embarrassed. The game's visuals were once again reflected on his glasses, and he stopped speaking. Speaking of Lin Jiechen, Jiang Lin is also quite curious about him. He likes to wear a white shirt with casual pants on weekdays, coupled with a delicate face and a height of 1.78, which makes him very handsome. However, he doesn't know what he's thinking on weekdays, and likes to talk about topics such as travel. Jiang Lin and he met by chance, but with similar family backgrounds and personalities, they became good friends in the dormitory. Of course, they may not be close friends, but their relationship can be considered the best in school. My name is Jiechen, and I am a traveler. When you say you don't believe me, I actually don't believe myself either. In my past life, I was originally an ordinary intern at a Fortune 500 company. Due to the exploitation of unscrupulous bosses, I had to complete my plan in one night, otherwise I wouldn't be able to become a full-time employee. You know, this is very important to me. So I rushed left and right, and finally completed the plan at the moment the sun rose. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it either. In the moment I fell asleep, I was still dreaming of becoming the CEO, marrying Bai Fume, and reaching the pinnacle of my life. Unexpectedly, when I woke up, I became a babbling baby. Looking at my unfamiliar parents and the unfamiliar world, I realized that I had been reincarnated into a different world. I thought I was playing the protagonist's script, but unexpectedly, I was playing the role of a clown. This world is very similar to my previous life. Although technology has developed and countries have decreased, some fundamental internal things are still the same. Just say that the glorious empire in which one is located is characterized by severe class rigidity. It is difficult for ordinary people to survive alone, let alone achieve class crossing. Although it guarantees some basic conditions for material life, it is no longer at the same level as people's growing spiritual needs. And the family I came from was not very happy either. My parents divorced, and domestic violence made it difficult for my sister and I to rely on each other. If it weren't for my past life memories and my early maturity, which helped me earn some money, my sister and I might have had a hard time even going to school. Nowadays, I rely on reselling some second-hand goods and games to provide all the expenses for my sister and me. As for my gambling dad and money-loving mom, I really ignore them and move out with my sister, at best renting a house. As for the idea of becoming a copycat, it has long been abandoned by Jiechen. To be honest, this world is like a replica of his previous world. Whether it's songs, movies, comics, or novels, similar versions have already appeared in this world. For example, Pirate King here is called Pirate King, and Breaking the Sky here is called Breaking the Universe. In addition to changing several names, the content is almost the same, completely breaking Jiechen's dream of becoming the entertainment godfather. Although I have been overwhelmed by the burden of life and can't breathe, my inner desire to have a life like that of the protagonist in the novel has never stopped. After all, you know, even if it's the grandpa system and other exclusive cheats for the protagonist that are a bit late, my configuration. With both parents dead, a sister with a house, and the setting of a time traveler. Is not the protagonist, who would believe it? Just now, the classmate who was shouting loudly seemed to be called Wuji. It was obvious that he was the protagonist of the rebirth template. This kind of performance was either the rebirth of the immortal lord by the green or the cannon fodder sold at the end of the day. Yi, indeed, should not be underestimated. In the past half-month, Jiechen has intentionally or unintentionally started collecting various information about Wuji. Sometimes, he even doesn't even eat, and if he doesn't take the game order, he has to attend the same class as Wuji. Sure enough, Jiechen noticed some abnormalities in Wuji. This Wuji was the illegitimate son of a listed company owner. In the past, he was the kind of person who spent money recklessly and followed a group of young men behind him in school, smoking and drinking, flirting with girls everywhere, typical of a lazy young man. But such a waste started to focus on exercising after that classroom incident, not only cutting off contact with his good brothers, but also becoming a quit brother. Strange. After informing Jiang Lin of his findings over the past half-month, Jiechen looked both worried and excited. What you're saying makes sense, but I just found a job helping middle school students with tutoring recently, so. Jiang Lin smiled helplessly at Jiechen. Sigh. I wish you all the best in your work. Seeing that Jiang Lin still didn't take his words seriously, Jiechen stopped talking about this matter and only talked about other things as a topic. After the two parted ways, Jiang Lin looked at Lin Jiechen's back and was dragged for a long time in the sunset. How come I don't want to experience a different kind of experience? But reality is reality. Jiang Lin immediately sighed again. People like us have to give our all just to live. Even if we yearn for change in our hearts, how can this numb body not let down that hot heart? Chapter 3. Reborn Wuji. You are listening at novelfull.audio. During this period, Wuji always felt that someone was tracking him but didn't know who it was, which made him start to doubt whether he was too sensitive. His worries were also normal. After all, he had hidden a huge secret. My name is Wuji. A reborn person. I come from the world 3 years later, a hellish world. 1 year later, on January 1st, 1991 in the Gregorian calendar, there will be a sudden global red blood rain in the sky. This heavy rain will last for a whole week, and yes, it will be a crimson blood rain, a foul-smelling blood rain. For a moment, rumors spread everywhere, and the once almost disappeared apocalyptic theory swept through again. The overwhelming comments on the internet made the already panicked crowd even more panicked. Although global experts have repeatedly claimed that it is a peculiar natural phenomenon that the rain turns red due to the mixing of red dust or bird groups in the storm airflow, as well as other animals being drawn into the storm and injured and bleeding. Even the world's highest government has urgently issued a statement to refute rumors, and even deployed fully armed troops. Although it has achieved some results, it has only stopped some violent actions. The already shaken hearts cannot be easily suppressed by force. During that period, even if a cabbage was fried to 1,000 yuan per piece, 1 yuan is about 1 yuan, there were still many residents purchasing it. There are still many illegal elements who take advantage of the chaos and openly challenge local governments, hoping to seize power and seize the throne. For a moment, global turmoil. Sure enough, those who accidentally got drenched in blood showed strange behavior in just a week. At first, they had a high fever, but later most of them began to go insane and became aggressive. Not only did they bite and kill people whenever they saw them, but they also had a strong infectivity, making them an enhanced version of zombies in film and television works. They became monsters. Terrifying monsters with superhuman powers and partial intelligence, later known as blood demons. The overall contours of these blood demons resemble human figures, but their appearance is extremely ugly, and they develop various abilities with different stages. The most prominent feature is that their pupils are blood red, as if representing their bloodthirsty nature. Of course, there are also a very small number of people who have survived high fever and suppressed the desire to kill, but this probability is too small. It not only requires strong physical fitness, but also extraordinary willpower. According to incomplete statistics by experts later on, the probability is less than 1 in 1,000. That blood rain turned over 80% of the world's people into blood demons, with less than 20% struggling to survive in this purgatory-like world. Wuji was also one of them. Although he could barely make a living with his identity at the beginning, in the face of despicable human nature, only martial power was the only power. Because he was too cowardly at that time and missed many opportunities to become stronger, he was eventually abandoned by his female brothers and became the food of the blood demon's belly. You heard it right, that world. The era known as the Apocalypse Year, in later generations. May be the hell of the weak, but it is the paradise of the strong. Power must be reshuffled, allowing everyone to have the opportunity to become a superior, some living a miserable life and willingly becoming servants, while others want to become kings through wind and rain. In times of chaos, heroes emerge. Since I, Wuji, can live another life, I am destined to become the strongest one in this life. I want those who betray me to know my strength, I want all those who look down on me to kneel at my feet, I want to dominate the world. Wuji roared almost crazily, causing his originally handsome face to become somewhat distorted. Perhaps it was his illegitimate identity that made him feel inferior, or perhaps the humiliating experience of a year in the apocalypse that made him unwilling to experience it again. He silently swore in his heart that this time, he must change his future. Wuji, who is familiar with the future, is indeed qualified to think so. After all, the advantage of foresight is not just for fun. As far as Wuji knows, there are only 4 ways to become a stronger person than ordinary people in the afterlife. 1 is to become a heavenly awakened one, which is the strongest and most unique existence among all supernatural beings, completely untraceable. As far as Wuji knows, the few heavenly awakened ones in the end world are all powerful rulers. Heavenly awakened ones have a very prominent feature, which is that when they use their power, they will show golden pupils, which is also the simplest way to judge them. This first option is obviously impossible. After all, in the previous life, the heavens did not choose me, and in this life, there must not be many opportunities, Wuji pondered as he pinched his chin. The second is to become a fruit-capable person. It is unknown whether it is the revival of spiritual energy or the change in the Earth's magnetic field that caused the birth of the blood rain. During the entire period of time, some plants on Earth underwent mutations, some began to grow wildly, even reaching heights of several kilometers, while others exhibited some phenomena that violated natural laws, such as luminescence or natural combustion. Naturally, the fruits produced by these extraordinary plants also have extraordinary fruit effects. Although they may be weak or strong, the body of those who consume these fruits has undergone significant changes. Not only has their physical fitness improved significantly, but some even directly produce supernatural abilities. This second one is very suitable for me and can be adopted, Wuji said while eating various delicious dishes at a Michelin restaurant and recording his various plans on the computer. The third is to become a blood demon. Although it can also bring a great improvement in human strength, the risk is high. If there is not enough strong willpower and physical fitness, all previous efforts will be lost, and one should choose carefully. This is an impossible solution. It can only be tried when in dire straits. Wuji casually drank a glass of cola and let out a satisfied hiccup. After all, in the end world, due to resource scarcity, he was at the bottom and couldn't enjoy these things, so he had to make up for them now. As for the last one, it is absolutely impossible for Wuji to accept it with his current temper. After all, he has already suffered enough humiliation in his previous life, and even if he dies, he would not choose this way of becoming stronger, so let's not mention it. It's time to relax and unwind. Having a full meal and indulging in lust, Wuji had been doing nothing for a long time to exercise. After speaking, he made a phone call and someone immediately arranged a 5-star hotel. As a young master, Wuji still had many advantages, which was just one of the indispensable aspects. In addition, Wuji had already instructed his team to search for any special phenomena around the world, all of which were prepared for the future path. Chapter 4. The Book of Shadows. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Time flies like an arrow, and a semester of life has quickly come to an end. Upon returning home, Jianglin immediately returned to his room, unlocked the password lock on the drawer, and took out the black book from it. With a click, a drop of bright red blood dripped into the blank page of the book again. In Jianglin's expectant gaze, the black book once again burst into a strange light. This time, unlike last time, it was not black book itself that experienced the first mutation, but Jianglin, who was holding books. What's going on with my body? I feel like there's a magical force flowing from the depths of my soul all over my body, feeling like Superman. I saw Jianglin emitting an infinite amount of black energy all around him, tightly including it. In an instant, the black energy exploded and Jianglin's figure slowly appeared. He clenched his fist, seemingly with endless power. Upon closer inspection of Jianglin's figure, not only did he become even more robust, but his pupils also flickered with a golden hue. Jianglin pulled back his shirt and looked in the mirror, still able to see that his previously inconspicuous abdominal muscles had now become knife-like. I feel like I can easily beat a cow to death with just one punch. It's really amazing. Why did it turn out like this? Just as Jiang Lin was feeling a bit confused, the text reappeared on the blank page of the black book. You are the chosen one by heaven. If this book falls into your hands, it is fate. From now on, you will be the Shadow Lord. The text disappeared after about a minute, and Jiang Lin's mind also had a lot of information out of thin air, telling him how to use his abilities and the name of the book. Shadow Book. Based on the information in Jiang Lin's mind, this book was selected by Jiang Lin. Is that so? This ability is really interesting. Jiang Lin moved his fingers slightly and saw his own shadow, which transformed into a black mist and gradually solidified before slowly standing up. He looked like a human, but his face was blurry and surrounded by black mist, making it difficult to see the true face inside. Is your ability not enough? It seems that you need to acquire some power as soon as possible. To better use your abilities, only by obtaining soul power can you advance your abilities, just like upgrading in a game requires experience. The same goes for advancing abilities. The only way to obtain soul energy is to kill an object that can move autonomously, and the higher the ability to kill the object itself, the more soul energy can be obtained. There are still many livestock like chickens and ducks at home, let me give them a try. Jiang Lin rolled up his sleeves, feeling excited and eager to try. Because Jiang Lin is in a rural area and he is the only one in the family at this time, there are still a few chickens and ducks left in the past. These were specially sent to him by Jiang Lin's aunts, but now they can give Jiang Lin a try. After a great deal of effort, Jiang Lin, who had never killed any living creature before, trembled as he held a kitchen knife and pressed down on the neck of a big rooster with his gloved hand. With his eyes closed, he suddenly slashed and stabbed, causing the rooster's head to break. Although his legs and wings were still struggling, under the full pressure of Jiang Lin, who had already gained extraordinary strength, the rooster quickly drained its blood and died completely. At this moment, in Jiang Lin's eyes, a pure white energy like flowing water slowly entered his body. Sure enough, although it is very small, there is a clear feeling as if there are thin threads of energy flowing into the depths of my soul. If my total soul energy at this moment is compared to a bucket of water, then the soul energy that this rooster can provide is only a drop at most, but unfortunately it is too little. Jiang Lin casually left the decapitated rooster aside. With a burst of energy, Jiang Lin grabbed the remaining 3 hens and 2 ducks and wiped them all around his neck. As a hint of energy poured into his body, Jiang Lin couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I'm so strong. Is this strength? It seems necessary to do a physical test on all aspects of myself. The first thing to test is strength. Jiang Lin casually lifted a bag of rice at home and easily lifted it over his head. This bag of rice should weigh about 100 pounds, and now I can lift it with only 1/5 of my strength. So, it is estimated that my full punch should be able to exceed 1,000 pounds, he said after putting the rice back in its original position. Jiang Lin began to test his jumping ability and explosive power again. His legs were bent, his hands were raised, and he jumped vigorously. Wow, so high. Jiang Lin was a bit surprised by the consequences of his full jump. After landing, looking back, Jiang Lin was very excited and said, "It should be 10 meters, is that my explosive power? It's a bit scary. If I were to participate in the competition, I should be able to win the championship. Although it's just surpassed the limit of humanity, it will definitely surprise those scientists." After testing all aspects of his body's data, Jiang Lin ran back to his room, locked the door, and used his powers again. Jiang Lin's pupils instantly turned golden, and black energy began to appear around him. With the influx of energy, Jiang Lin's shadow condensed again. It's still not enough. At this level, not to mention combat, I can't even act independently. As my clone, I'm still not qualified enough. Jiang Lin is a bit frustrated. How can I become stronger? If the prophecy of the Book of Shadows is true, it has been less than half a year since the end of the world. I need to quickly improve my strength. However, in today's rule of law society, control is strict, and electronic eyes and monitoring devices are installed in various places. A slight carelessness can easily attract the attention of special departments, and actions will be more restricted by then. Jiang Lin rested his hands on his forehead, lost in thought. By the way, you can ask the Book of Shadows and see what he can do. After dripping blood again, the Book of Shadows emitted a light as usual but did not reveal a word. What's going on? Why is there nothing this time? Can the Book of Shadows only show answers to questions about the end times and one's own abilities? These small things still need to be solved by oneself. Jiang Lin guessed. Dingling dingling, the ringtone of the phone rings, and the caller ID shows Xiaogu, Auntie, what's wrong? Xiaolin, you just came back. Why don't you come and stay at my house this year? No need, thank you for your kindness, sister.in.law. I'm doing well alone and just wanted to find a job. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Xiaolin, don't feel too uncomfortable. After your grandparents leave, you will still have your aunts. We will always be your support. If you are feeling any trouble, feel free to call us and we will do our best to help you. Thank you, Auntie. I know, I happen to be graduating soon, and I want to find a job to practice and prepare for entering society in the future. Jiang Lin was a bit touched but didn't know how to express himself due to face saving, so he could only respond with a wooden tone. Okay, what type of job are you looking for? Jiang Lin shared her idea of working in the slaughterhouse with Jiang Fenglian. Although Jiang Fenglian was very puzzled, as there were no college students looking to practice in this industry, with Jiang Lin's repeated insistence, she had no choice but to agree and say that she would help contact friends in this field. Chapter 5. Power Enhancement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few days later, Jiang Lin came to work at a cattle slaughterhouse as he wished. After all, in modern society, cattle killing is now done by machine outsourcing, and there is rarely a specialized use of manual labor. At the beginning, this did indeed surprise Jiang Lin. Young people have little experience, and real life is not as smooth as in movies and TV shows. At the beginning, Jiang Lin worked as a helper for the boss, doing auxiliary chores such as handling cow excrement. However, due to Aunt Jiang Lin's kindness, the boss sometimes agrees to let Jiang Lin kill a few cows as research topics at Jiang Lin's strong request. Fortunately, he is a good boss who appreciates readers. Jiang Lin let out a long sigh. At first, he lied and felt a little flushed and heartbroken, but gradually became proficient. The person in charge of the cattle slaughterhouse is surnamed Lu, a bald and strong man with a face full of flesh. Although he appears fierce and evil on the outside, he is actually quite honest and takes good care of Jiang Lin. As long as Jiang Lin says, "This is a research topic assigned to us by the school," Mr. Lu will gladly agree to Jiang Lin's request. Although I don't understand what college students usually do on a daily basis, as long as it is conducive to learning, old Lu won't refuse. The enthusiastic Mr. Lu always patted Jiang Lin's shoulder and happily agreed to Jiang Lin's request. Under the guise of studying, Jiang Lin helped Mr. Lu slaughter a total of 6 cows and 1 pig throughout the summer vacation, which can be considered as a significant gain. After returning to his small courtyard by car, Jiang Lin began to summarize this summer vacation. A lot of soul power. With my current strength, I can definitely beat myself 2 months ago. The strength increase should be as much as 5 times. A punch of 5,000 pounds. Looking at his own hands, Jiang Lin's handsome face was filled with pride. In addition to gaining these powers, the kind-hearted boss Lu also gave Jiang Lin 2,000 yuan coins as a reward. Despite Jiang Lin's refusal, he couldn't resist boss Lu's insistence. "You little kid, why are you being polite to me? Your sister.in.law and I are very good friends. You need money to study now, and I know your family situation. You can accept it. If you refuse, don't blame me for being angry. Seeing Mr. Lu's irresistible appearance, Jiang Lin had to accept it. To be honest, this makes Jiang Lin a bit embarrassed. After all, during the summer vacation, Mr. Lu has been troubled by so many things, and his intention was not to work at the beginning. It's truly a shame. I earned 5,000 yuan while working at school, plus my current 2,000 yuan and my previous savings. The total amount is 134,001 yuan. Jiang Lin, lying in bed, quietly counted his own accounts. Accommodation and meals are basically free of charge, and with my father still coming over every month, there's really no need to worry. In summary, there are still some flowers, but Jiang Lin always believes that physiological maturity cannot be considered as true adulthood. Only by having the ability to live independently and earn money can one truly become an adult. So, Jiang Lin, who held such a huge sum for the first time, had an unprecedented sense of achievement. Jiang Lin quickly arrived at an open space in his own yard and looked at a thick oak tree standing in front of him. Jiang Lin decided to test whether the power of his fist was really as strong as he had estimated. Jiang Lin began to hold his breath and concentrate, only to see the black energy quickly converge on his tightly clenched fist. Then, he swung forward with force. With a bang. The outer shell of the oak tree shattered with a loud bang, and the entire tree body shook violently due to Jiang Lin's fist wind. Countless leaves danced down, casually patting the scattered leaves and branches on my head and shoulders. Jiang Lin leaped into the air again and in the blink of an eye, jumped several meters high and easily flipped onto the balcony in his own yard. Looking at the distant scenery, I only feel that the scenery is infinitely beautiful. Flip open the shadow book that had already been placed on the balcony, skillfully prick your fingers, and blood droplets fall. This sudden change has had a novel effect, and the Book of Shadows displays the text. Congratulations, Jiang Lin. Your strength has exceeded the first-level Shadow Guard. Now you are qualified to summon 2 shadow slaves as your subordinates, and they will fully obey your commands. At the moment when the words disappeared, Jiang Lin also received the ability given to him by the Shadow Book. Come out, my shadow slave. Jiang Lin blurted out this line a bit halfway. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw 2 figures dressed in pitch-black suits, with a strong physique and a height of about 1.8 meters. Only those figures with eerie red eyes were half kneeling in front of Jiang Lin. Shadow Slave is a title given in the Book of Shadows, which not only possesses the physical strength of a normal adult, but also possesses a skill called Shadow Escaping Technique. Shadow slaves have no thinking and can only obey some simple commands from their masters. The advantage is that they do not get tired. Even if attacked to a fatal location, it will not truly disappear, it only requires the consumption of the master's soul energy to be summoned again. It looks quite robust, but I don't know how strong it is. The one on the left is called number 1, and the one on the right is called number 2. I don't know if these 2 shadow slaves understood or not, but Jiang Lin casually gave them a simple name. Of course, the first step is to test their strength. Number 1, punch me. Jiang Linchao hooked his hand and number 1 seemed to understand. Although he remained silent, he quickly responded. The fist arrived as scheduled, but Jiang Lin easily caught the fist from number 1 with one hand. Not bad, the strength of this punch is indeed comparable to that of an adult, with a weight of 300 pounds. Jiang Lin gave his own evaluation with satisfaction, and then ordered these 2 shadow slaves to go to the mountains to hunt some wild animals. This was not only to increase his own income but also to collect soul energy. After all, although shadow slaves only have the strength of normal adults, their shadow escaping technique can allow them to outperform most small wild animals. In addition, they are not tired, making them the best hunting tool. Seeing the shadows of number 1 and number 2 escaping at a speed of 10 meters per second and rushing towards the mountain forest until they disappeared, Jiang Lin sat down and took a deep breath. It seems that with the strength of my first-level shadow guard, I can only summon up to 2 shadow slaves at most. My soul energy has already been consumed almost. After all, I am not very familiar with my upgrade path. I still need to figure out what standards I need to meet as soon as possible in order to be recognized by the Shadow Book. Based on the already known information, the only way to upgrade one's abilities is to collect soul energy, and the way to obtain soul energy is very limited. Now is a rule of law society, coupled with the strict control of the empire, being a hero who punishes evil and promotes good is not something to consider for the time being. With Jiang Lin's current strength, he may not even be able to carry ordinary bullets, let alone the strongest laser weapon in the empire. Jiang Lin lay on the balcony, bathed in the summer breeze, and continued to plan his future upgrade path in his heart. Unconsciously, he slowly fell asleep. Chapter 6. Strange Fruits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? You said there's a glowing tree growing on Tianya Mountain in Huaxi County. Great. Does the Empire send people to blockade the area? That means I have one day. Wuji just woke up from the double bed in a 5-star hotel and received such great news. Pushing the attractive woman next to her with force, she quickly put on her own clothes and pants, and while tying her designer belt, casually threw out a stack of checks from her wallet. Su Qingqing, take these money and don't contact me again from now on, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. At this moment, the big-eyed cute girl on the bed was still rubbing her somewhat confused eyes. He's such a dog man. He even requested here and there last night, and as soon as he lifted his pants, he didn't recognize anyone, Su Qingqing muttered with some coquettishness. In the moment of stretching her waist, her snow-white skin was reflected in the first ray of sunlight in the morning. Her curvy figure showed her proud capital, and her long hair cascading down her shiny shoulders. It can be seen that this woman is indeed a charming fairy. Su Qingqing used her slender hands to index the banknotes scattered by Wuji on the sheets, while rolling her eyes with infinite charm at the man who was slamming the door. Really, I used to love my mom so much, but now I just want to dump her, what a scumbag. Tianya Mountain is a relatively remote and famous scenic spot in Huaxi County. In the past, there were also many tourists visiting here, but now it is empty due to the order of the state government to block it. Of course, Wuji, who was still climbing the mountain step by step, was not inside. Wuji's back quickly moved upwards, and he had to get his goal before the official came. So high, why can't we build a cable car? I'm really tired. When I get the fruit, hee. Wuji was sweating profusely as he drank water and thought about the scene of his own scenery after picking up the fruit. He had been climbing for an hour and a half, and he was too tired. He had to find a nearby pavilion to rest for a while, but he didn't dare to stay long because he knew that the expert team sent by the Empire was already on the way. This is his last chance, otherwise it's impossible for him to get close to this area because of the old man's connections. Wuji looked at the electronic map in his hand, indicating direction, and estimated distance and time. Although he was tired, his heart was happy. This was the first step to achieving his extraordinary dominance. Fortunately, in the past 6 months, Wuji has been actively exercising and his physical fitness is no longer as thin and weak as before. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to reach the mountaintop in just one day on his own. After 5 hours of climbing, it can be considered that the growth position of the light tree has been reached. At first glance, Wuji saw that this tree was no different from the general trees around it. It was a very common pear tree variety, and it was probably planted by some fruit farmers at the foot of the mountain. The only difference is that this tree emits a faint green halo around its body, as if it has been coated with green oil paint, and when touched, there is no abnormality in the tree's outer skin. Wuji slowly approached the surroundings of the pear tree and kept looking into the leaves under the tree. Based on my past life memories, those plants that grow strangely will bear a special fruit. Eating this fruit can give me unexpected abilities. This tree can shine, and theoretically, it should also have fruit. Wuji was carefully searching while wiping his sweat, afraid that he would come back in vain this time. Fortunately, under the meticulous search of Wuji, he discovered a green fruit the size of a jujube at the innermost end of the branch. Taking out the tools from the bag, there were sections of iron pipes that were assembled into a long stick, which happened to be used to knock down the fruit. It was also evident that Wuji had made sufficient preparations and put in some effort, and the fruit was successfully knocked down. It's very ordinary, is it really useful? Besides, it's so small, not the size of a normal pear. Wuji held the green fruit and looked at it for a while, then took out his phone and took a few photos. Anyway, let's take it first. I also brought various emergency pills and antibiotic injections myself, so there's no need to worry at all. After making up his mind, Wuji stuffed the green fruit into his mouth and simply took a few bites before swallowing it into his stomach. How astringent. As soon as he finished speaking, Wuji felt a strange force pouring into the heavenly spirit, immediately plunging him into a mysterious situation. Wuji closed his eyes and felt this extraordinary power carefully. 1 minute later, Wuji opened his eyes, his gaze seeming to be quite sharp. Wind. I feel the wind, it seems that my ability is related to the wind, ha ha ha. Wuji's facial expressions became crazy again due to excessive excitement and laughter. So those extraordinary beings in their past lives all had this feeling. From now on, I, Wuji, will also be one of them. Wuji extended his hand and in an instant, a pure blue energy gathered in his palm. Wind blade. With the sound of Wuji, several blue blade-like whirlwinds condensed from phoenixes rushed forward, leaving corresponding shallow wind blade marks on the ground in an instant. Looking at the damage caused by his wind blade, Wuji couldn't believe it, which was too far from the extraordinary people he had seen in his past life who were prone to moving mountains and seas. Why is the power so small? By the way, those guys from previous lives said that extraordinary beings need soul energy to make their abilities stronger, and the only way to obtain soul energy is to kill moving objects. Currently, the best choice is undoubtedly those large mammals. This is a good solution for Wuji. He can definitely acquire a slaughterhouse and meet his upgrade needs by collecting various livestock, but it is still a bit difficult to achieve with his current financial resources. Although he has a father from a listed company, he is ultimately an illegitimate child who cannot be seen in public. The money given by the father is only a lump sum, with 100,000 yuan deposited into the infinite card every month. Although there are also quite a few, due to my previous extravagance, I don't have much left. Not to mention buying a slaughterhouse, I can't even raise enough money to buy 10 cows. If it weren't for my mother passing away due to illness, my fickle father would have probably forgotten about me long ago. After all, my mother is just one of his many lovers. The old man is usually very kind to me. It shouldn't be a problem to ask him for a few million. I'm afraid my hateful younger brother will get in the way. Wuji was secretly contemplating ways to deal with it. The bright moonlight replaced the afterglow of the sunset, and it was already evening without realizing it. Wuji realized that he needed to leave quickly. After taking Qinghua, Wuji took another step up in physical fitness, and the effort required to go down the mountain was also smaller. In less than 2 hours, Wuji returned to his residence. Chapter 7. Lin Jiechen's sister. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the campus of Huafa University. Jiang Lin and Lin Jiechen walked side by side, watching one new student after another carrying large and small bags of luggage coming and going. Jiang Lin asked Lin Jiechen, "You said your sister also got into Huafa University. I haven't heard of it before, have I? How does she look?" "You didn't ask. As for appearance, wouldn't you be able to see it soon?" Lin Jiechen playfully placed his hand on Jiang Lin's shoulder with a smile on his face. "Look, that's it." Jiang Lin looked in the direction of Lin Jiechen's fingers, and in an instant, it made Jiang Lin feel a bit dazed. What kind of beautiful girl is that? Holding a copy of Roglev's Love and Tears in hand, she sat quietly on the steps in front of the library, wearing a cotton dress and a pair of lace-tied white socks. Her jet black hair flowed straight down to accentuate her already fair neck, making her look even more tender. As for her stunning face, Jiang Lin dared not look much, afraid that she would not embarrass the beauty before her face boiled like the bottom of a boiling kettle. "Brother, is this the Jiang Lin brother you often mention?" Unlike Jiang Lin, who was too shy to turn her head, Lin Qinjia's sister appeared poised and took the initiative to walk towards Jiang Lin and her brother. "How's it going?" "My sister is pretty, don't be shy. The first time I see her is like you." Lin Jiechen seemed very proud of his sister's outstanding appearance, and at this moment, he kept teasing his brother Jiang Lin. "Brother, don't do this anymore. Jiang Lin's brother has been made shy by you." "It's hard to say whether you made me shy or me, that's hard to say." Lin Jiechen immediately picked up the conversation and continued to tease Jiang Lin. Alright, I'm not joking anymore, Jiang Lin. This is my sister Lin Yanran. I'm secretly telling you that she's their first high school flower." Lin Jiechen was the first to introduce his sister to Jiang Lin. "Sorry, I was a bit presumptuous just now." Although Jiang Lin was a bit awkward, he quickly adjusted his state and helped Lin Yanran lift some of the luggage while scratching his head. "Take a look at Jiang Lin's brother." "Brother, why don't you help me move my luggage?" Lin Yanran complained to her older brother with a slight emotion. Okay, Lin Jiechen immediately picked up the remaining luggage of his sister with a smile, indicating that he loved his sister very much on a daily basis. Brother is right, isn't he? The scenery of Huafa University is particularly beautiful. Later, you can take a look at the girls' dormitories, where the equipment is more advanced. The three of them walked side by side on the campus path, chatting about various matters of Huafa University without a word. Huafa University is truly one of the top 10 universities in the glorious empire. The environment here alone is very beautiful. Lin Yanran, like a curious kitten, was enjoying all the environment here with her big, hazy eyes. "I didn't expect your personality to be as outgoing as your brother's." Jiang Lin looked at Lin Yanran, who was taking a photo with her phone, and said, somewhat surprised. "No way, they only do this in front of people they know." Lin Yanran lowered her head a bit embarrassed, put down her phone with a twisted hand, wrapped her hands behind her back, and bounced over Jiang Lin and Lin Jiechen like a little white rabbit, walking alone. "Yanran, please slow down. Brother will take you through the enrollment registration later." "No need, I'll go with Bai Luoxue. Goodbye." Lin Yanran waved her hand at her brother without looking back after watching his old sister's figure disappear. Lin Jiechen suddenly mysteriously leaned over to Jiang Lin's ear and said, "By the way, Jiang Lin. I have an important matter to discuss with you in detail." "Isn't it about Yi Wuji again?" Jiang Lin looked helplessly at Lin Jiechen. Yes, I recently discovered that Yi Wuji spent several million yuan to acquire a cattle slaughterhouse. Are you surprised? Why does he spend his money in such a place for no reason? Even if he were a young master, he wouldn't suddenly do such a thing. While Lin Jiechen was still chattering non-stop, Jiang Lin began to frown and think. To enhance soul power, one can only obtain it by killing living creatures. Is there really a secret to Yi Wuji? It seems that there is indeed a need to find a plan to test him. Although Jiang Lin was determined to do so, he didn't intend to show anything to Lin Jiechen on the surface, just listen silently. After helping Lin Yanran carry her luggage, Jiang Lin used an excuse to shake off Lin Jiechen and hid in a place without a camera at school. He summoned Number 1 and directly conveyed his command to Number 1 with his consciousness. Follow Yi Wuji and report to me promptly if he really has any peculiarities. Number 1 nodded and then retreated into the darkness, transforming into a dark shadow on the ground and leaving at lightning speed. After a short period of hunting on the first and second, Jiang Lin harvested a total of 3 wild dogs, 6 wild boars, 12 wild chickens, 21 wild rabbits, and 2 big bear spirits. Apart from leaving some for himself to taste, he sold the remaining game to the restaurant and earned tens of thousands of yuan. Shadow slaves may not be very powerful in combat, but they are really a handy tool in wilderness combat. With less than half a month of hunting time, Jiang Lin successfully upgraded from a first-level shadow guard to a second-level shadow guard, and the number of shadow slaves he can summon increased from 2 to 4. If the previous total soul energy was 1 cup of water, then now it is definitely 2 cups of water. As for physical fitness, Jiang Lin did not test it again, only knowing that the increase is significant. Now, it's not a problem to beat a lion with just 1 punch. After giving orders, Jiang Lin returned to his dormitory, opened his second-hand fruit notebook, and searched online for the names of the wealthiest local businessmen. From Lin Jiechen's words just now, Jiang Lin learned that the best way to quickly achieve an upgrade before the end of the world is to use money to buy it. As for borrowing money in other things, it is not within Jiang Lin's consideration range, mainly because it is too troublesome. It is better to directly ask the local richest person for help. For the end of the world, Jiang Lin is not very afraid, especially after he has the ability to surpass ordinary people. Perhaps the only thing that worries him is his own family and friends. In Jiang Lin's own thoughts, these so-called interpersonal relationships constrain his behavior. Just as eagles yearn for freedom and fight the sky, Jiang Lin also has his own ideals to achieve. He wants to transform the world according to his own ideas. In today's world, class is solidified, channels of ascent are blocked, those in lower positions are drunk and dreaming, and those in higher positions are reckless. If one wants to survive, it seems that only flattery and flattery are needed. The criteria for social evaluation have become that the wicked gain power, while the virtuous are oppressed by those in power. The distorted world disgusts Jiang Lin. If human nature cannot be relied on, then suppress it with absolute law. If the 3 views are shattered, then reshape them with a majestic order. And I, Jiang Lin, am the executor of all of this. Jiang Lin understands that the most important way to achieve these goals is to get rid of all the things that control him. Unfortunately, he is still just a person with normal human nature, and his conscience is still working. Perhaps only through the baptism of time can he truly complete his transformation. It's too early to say these things now. Jiang Lin still knows nothing about the apocalypse, and he doesn't know how many people like him have extraordinary power. He still needs to be careful step by step, and improving his strength is the most important thing. Chapter 8. Funds arrived. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The people in the lonely mountain city are old, beating drums and playing the zither, but entering the agricultural and mulberry society. The fire is cold, the lamps are sparse, the frost is due, and the snow clouds hang over the fields in a daze. Good poetry is truly worthy of being written by the first poet of the Song dynasty. In front of the luxurious mahogany tea table, a bald and chubby middle-aged man holding a copy of Sue's complete poems, took a sip of the red tea brewed by Mai, and then babbled another poem. In the spacious room, large black shadows quietly appeared in front of the calligraphy and painting hanging behind the short and chubby man with the words, "Heaven rewards diligence." Jiang Lin and his 4 shadow servants stood there in awe. Jiang Lin was wearing a black trench coat and a black mask and sunglasses to conceal his identity. Duan Jiechen, 37 years old, is the youngest entrepreneur in Huiyan City, holding over 3 listed companies with an estimated value of over 6 billion yuan. Jiang Lin deliberately pretended to have a deep and rich voice. "Who is it? Who are you? How did you appear in my room?" Duan Jiechen panicked and twisted his fat body, his face filled with surprise and doubt. Looking at the 5 black-clothed people in front of him, he first thought that there were kidnappers coming to kidnap him. He had heard many of these things from his friends who were also entrepreneurs. Jiang Lin didn't waste any time and directly took a fruit knife from number one's hand and placed it around Duan Jingqing's neck. I need 5 million cash. I'll give you 1 day to prepare, and I'll come and collect it tomorrow at this time. Then, as if to increase his momentum, Jiang Lin casually opened and smashed Duan Jingqing's incredibly thick mahogany tea table. The sound of the tea table shattering was very shocking, masking Duan Jingqing's plea for mercy. Before he could fully react, these 5 black-clad people disappeared into the darkness on the wall, leaving only Duan Jingqing stunned and lost in place. Boss, what happened? The seductive female secretary rushed into Duan Jingqing's office with 2 security guards, helping the kneeling boss while also being startled by the shattered mahogany tea table on the ground. Boss, should we call the police? The secretary in white quietly inquired about Duan Jingqing while helping him dust himself. Don't tell me what you saw today, otherwise don't blame me for being merciless. Duan Jingqing quickly tidied up his attire, touched his smooth head, and solemnly ordered the 3 people in front of him. Call someone to handle it. By the way, Secretary Wu, take this card and help me withdraw 5 million yuan in cash. Please hand it over to me before tonight. Hurry up. After Duan Jingqing gave these instructions, he made a phone call. Dad, the thing is, this afternoon. Jiang Lin, who returned to his own school, was not worried that Duan Jingqing would reveal this secret, because he wanted to try who and see how much the empire already knew about the future. How many people are there like myself? According to the intelligence brought by number 1, Wuji has been confirmed to be an extraordinary person like himself, possessing the ability of wind, so Jiang Lin has to accelerate his upgrade plan in this way. If it's true, as Lin Jiechen guessed, that Wuji is a reborn person, then how should I deal with him? With my current strength, I'm afraid it's still difficult to compete with him. Jiang Lin was eating a 5 yuan spoonful of potato stew with white rice in the school cafeteria when he suddenly saw Lin Jiechen's sister Lin Yanran holding hands with a snow-white female student walking towards him. Hi, brother Jiang Lin, we meet again. We met again. Is this your classmate next to you? Jiang Lin smiled and greeted Lin Yanran, then glanced at the woman beside her. This female classmate also had an outstanding appearance that did not belong to Lin Yanran. Although she had an expressionless and aloof expression, her majestic chest was enough to attract the attention of any man, even Jiang Lin included her. Yes, this is my good friend, Bai Luoxue. She was also admitted to the finance major at Huafa University this year. Lin Yanran introduced her best friend to Jiang Lin with a bright smile, and then pulled up the white snow path beside her. This is my brother's good friend, brother Jiang Lin. Bai Luoxue just nodded casually and took Lin Yanran to another restaurant to order. Jiang Lin didn't mind either, he just solved the remaining food on his own, and his mind was still rehearsing the scene of how to win against Wuji and the next plan after receiving the money. The next day, Jiang Lin quietly appeared in Duan Jingqing's office again with several shadow slaves from the darkness. The bald boss seemed to have anticipated and greeted Jiang Lin with a smile. We look forward to your patronage. Here is 5 million yuan in cash. Duan Jingqing warmly brought chairs to Jiang Lin and opened a black suitcase containing 5 million cash to display in front of him. Jiang Lin sat down generously and casually took the tea that Duan Jingqing had brewed for him. After calmly scanning the corners of the room, he spoke to Duan Jingqing, "Do you have anything to ask?" At this moment, Duan Jingqing, who was bending down to apologize, quickly replied. "Sir, don't worry, there is no monitoring or recording equipment in the room. I have arranged this matter and it is impossible to expose your trace. As for the money, if you are not confident, you can also inspect it on the spot." Looking at the sleazy uncle who rubbed his hands while his face was full of flattery, Jiang Lin was too lazy to circle with him and asked directly, "How much do you know about people like us? And how did you plan on it?" This. With the sound of the cup shattering, Jiang Lin's strong voice also echoed. "To be honest, my patience is limited. Seeing Jiang Lin angry, Jiechen quickly knelt down on the ground, not even daring to look directly at Jiang Lin, and responded in a panic, "Sir, to be honest with you, besides you, the Empire has already recruited several extraordinary beings like you." "Oh, what do you think?" Jiang Lin played with the exquisite tea cups on the tea table and asked seemingly casually. "Sir, I sincerely invite you to join my family. Rest assured that once you join us, we will do our best to meet all your requirements, including—" Before Jiechen could finish speaking, Jiang Lin interrupted directly and said, "We'll talk about these things later. I'll come back to you when I have an idea." Yes, sir. If you have any needs, please feel free to contact me. I am always waiting for your assistance." After speaking, Jiang Lin slowly disappeared into the darkness with a black suitcase containing 5 million cash. A few minutes later, Jiechen stood up, dusted his knees, then took out a comb from his pocket and pretended to comb the hair behind his head. After the instrument was properly organized, he took out his phone and called his father. "Dad, it went pretty smoothly. Although he deliberately pretended to be seasoned, he's not over 25 years old. He's a young man, a bit sophisticated but not much." A few more minutes later, the seductive secretary with several fully armed bodyguards rushed into Jiechen's door and saw her boss leisurely drinking tea. She whispered in Jiechen's ear, "Boss, we have closely monitored the entire 10-mile radius of the company building as per your instructions, but we have not found any suspicious individuals wearing black windbreakers." "Aha, I got it. Can you take the person out?" After taking a sip of the tea brewed by Jiechen took out a book called Yasi, and read it with great interest. Chapter 9. Flying to Pao'an County. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After returning to school, Jiang Lin first applied for a spot for off-campus accommodation from his counselor. After everything was handled properly, it was already evening, but Jiang Lin still managed to get to the rented room outside the school smoothly. At this moment, Jiang Lin Kai summoned number 1 and took the black suitcase he presented. As soon as the suitcase opened, several beams of light seemed to burst out. Seeing such a huge amount of money for the first time made Jiang Lin Kai couldn't help but be very excited, even happier than when he obtained a power. Perhaps this is the power of obsession. The Glory Empire has very strict control over the flow of personal funds, and everything can be done smoothly. If I spend the funds now, it may cause a lot of trouble. It seems necessary to go to other states. Jiang Lin, lying in the pile of money, calmly analyzed the current situation. On the second day the bell for class rang early, but Jiang Lin secretly skipped class with Lin Jiechen and went to the small pavilion next to the couple's lake at school. "Jiang Lin, why did you mysteriously bring me here?" Lin Jiechen, who was finally getting up and eating pork-stuffed buns, threw out his doubts to Jiang Lin. "I won the prize, with a prize of 5 million yuan, what? How much?" Maybe because he was too excited, Lin Jiechen coughed out the soybean milk he had just drunk in his mouth. "I'm planning to give you 10,000 now, as long as you do me a little favor." Looking at Jiang Lin with a calm and serene appearance, Lin Jiechen still couldn't believe his ears. He quickly put down his breakfast, hooked his shoulders and back to Jiang Lin, and said with great righteousness, "Good brother, as long as it's not something illegal or criminal, even if it's going up and down the road, I'll help you handle it, brother." Jiang Lin had a dark expression on his face, so he told Lin Jiechen about his desire to leave school for a while and entrusted him not to tell the counselor. If the class was important, he could also help with it. Seeing Lin Jiechen clapping his chest, Jiang Lin felt relieved. Jiang Lin first purchased a plane ticket online to fly to the northern part of the empire, Luowezu. The largest cattle and sheep breeding ground in the empire, also known as the Big State on the back of cattle. In the glorious empire, the level of territorial division from top to bottom was state, county, city, county, town, village. Luohui Prefecture has a vast territory, and Jiang Lin is preparing to fly to one of its counties, Pao'an County. This place is famous for raising strong yaks in every household. To obtain more soul power, the best solution is to choose more powerful creatures, which is also the second-step plan for Jiang Lin to quickly improve his strength. In order to pass the airport security check smoothly, Jiang Lin handed over a black suitcase containing 5 million cash to his shadow slaves. Although the shadow slaves could not catch up with the speed of the plane, they could hide in Jiang Lin's own shadow. Perhaps it was some mechanism that caused Jiang Lin, who had integrated all 4 shadow slaves into his own shadow body, to feel a significant increase in his own strength. This is Jiang Lin's first time taking a plane, a rare experience. He spent 20,000 yuan to experience the feeling of first class on an airplane. He used to watch it on TV, but now he realizes through his own experience why everyone envies the rich so much. It turns out that the world seen by the rich and the poor is completely different. Watching ordinary passengers waiting in a long queue, Jiang Lin was able to board the plane early in the VIP room. After the plane took off smoothly, a flight attendant wearing a blue and white uniform with exquisite makeup smiled at Jiang Lin with a standard professional smile. "Hello, sir. May I help you fasten your seatbelt?" "No need, thank you. Would you like a meal or dim sum?" Jiang Lin suddenly felt a bit at a loss because he didn't know if he had to pay for these things. The frugal habits developed in the countryside made him instinctively want to refuse, but at this moment, a young man in his 20s and 60s patted Jiang Lin's shoulder and said to the smiling flight attendant who was bending over, "Help us get 2 glasses of West African-style red wine and 2 plates of Western cuisine." Then he whispered to Jiang Lin with a bewildered expression on his face. Although Jiang Lin didn't know the man in front of him, he gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity, saying that all the drinks and food here were free. After the flight attendant left, Jiang Lin said thank you. "I saw this tall and thin man dressed in a dark green suit, with a slim fit and a silver border on the collar. Coupled with his spirited face like the protagonist in a cultivation novel, Jiang Lin was filled with curiosity when he first met him. "My name is Yi Wuhan, nice to meet you." "My name is Jiang Lin." "Nice to meet you too." Before Jiang Lin could reach out his hand, he was held in his hands by Yi Wutress. Looking at his enthusiastic expression, Jiang Lin felt a bit embarrassed, making the people next to him think that these two were acquaintances they had not seen in a long time. "No trace, go back to your seat." A tall and glamorous woman behind Yi Wuhan shouted to her with some displeasure. "Little brother, don't take it for granted. Our boss is always familiar with everyone." As soon as the woman finished speaking, another honest voice came from the back, speaking from a man with a big arm and a round waist, who was nearly 2 meters tall. This made Jiang Lin, who was 1.85 meters tall, look up to him. "Then let's not talk for now, I'll go back first." After patting Jiang Lin's shoulder, Yi Wuchen returned to his position. After the flight attendant delivered the food, Yi Wuchen, who was diagonally across from Jiang Lin, raised his glass to Jiang Lin from afar, causing the gorgeous woman next to him to angrily pat his thigh. It seemed that Yi Wuchen did not want to have too much contact with unfamiliar people. "What a strange trio, is the woman next to him his sister?" Jiang Lin took a sip of red wine, sighed a bit sour, and shook his head. At this moment, a middle-aged man sitting next to Jiang Lin with a gold chain and a big belly, looking like a boss, sarcastically said to Jiang Lin. "Little ghost, this is my first time doing first-class cabins. At first glance, it looks like I have never seen the world before." After finishing speaking, I fiddled with several large gemstone rings of different colors on my hand, intentionally or unintentionally showing them in the direction of Jiang Lin. Jiang Lin ignored him and, with the attitude that more things are better than less, turned around and looked out the window. "How do you talk? You think you're just amazing with 2 copper coins, right?" The carefree and cheerful voice of Yi Wutress came again, and he even rolled up his sleeves to prepare for a big fight. "Hey, wild boy, do you dare to pull in front of me? You can't find a way to fight. The middle-aged man originally wanted to stand up with his tiger back and bare waist to prepare for the attack, but he saw the burly man who was nearly 2 meters tall next to Wuhan. He felt a bit conflicted for a moment. Fortunately, the flight attendant arrived in time to resolve the conflict between the two sides. Jiang Lin nodded with a friendly smile at Wuji, and after chatting for a while, both sides returned to their respective seats. Before Jiang Lin put on his eye mask to rest, he saw a black shadow slowly merging from Jiang Lin's side along the ground into the shadow of the sleeping middle-aged man. At this moment, all the passengers in the cabin were resting quietly, as if no one had noticed this eerie scene. However, Wuji, who was originally reading a magazine, suddenly had a flash in his eyes, sure enough. Chapter 10. Rapidly Enhancing Strength. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Getting off the plane, the smell of soil mixed with the natural scent of grass fills the air. Even if you haven't really left the airport yet, you can feel the vastness of this vast plain. I'm really sorry, Jiang Lin. We still have something to do, so we'll leave first. If there's a chance next time, I'll definitely take you to a good place to play. Wuji smiled and said to Jiang Lin. Jiang Lin also politely said a few words, and then separated from Wuji and his group. Jiang Lin used his phone to call a taxi and told the driver to go to the best hotel in Pao'an County. It was already late and the matter of purchasing yaks could only be discussed tomorrow. At Jiang Lin, Brother Lin. Where have you been? The counselor personally called out this morning, which scared me to death. Fortunately, I came up with a quick idea and said you went to the restroom. Good brother, help me hold on for another 2 days. I'll come back and treat you to a big meal. Jiang Lin looked at the message sent by Lin Jiechen in the text message and quickly typed it back. Oh, don't worry about my affairs, but you need to come back quickly. I don't know what's going on lately. The school has been very strict, and we need to ensure that every student attends classes on time and normally. Jiang Lin knew in his heart that some high-ranking officials in the empire had already sensed the signs of the end of the world, and it seemed that he needed to accelerate his pace. On the other side, Wang Dalai was still confiding in his tattooed buddies about his unpleasant experience on the plane today. He was holding on to several seductive and revealing drinking companions in the KTV, while his face turned red and he let out smoke to vent his anger. What bad luck. If I run into those cowards again, I'll definitely show them the methods of labor and management. Brother Wang, do you want a few contacts, brothers? Go find the guys you mentioned. If we don't talk about other places, can we still let them bully us from other places in our county of Pao'an? A little brother with a scar on his face and sharp-tongued monkey cheeks encouraged Wang Dalai. Under the influence of alcohol, perhaps he didn't want to lose face in front of his brothers and women, so Wang Dalai slapped his thigh. Ma, the more I think about it, the angrier I get. Xiao Lu, please contact a few people to help me find these monkey cubs. As for the woman, keep her for the brothers to enjoy. Amidst the cries of the crowd, Wang Dalai seemed to finally ease his anger. At 11 o'clock in the evening, after everyone returned home, Wang Dalai also let out a groggy hiccup, waved his hand, and shouted to the landlady, accounting. At this moment, the landlady, who was directing her servants to clean up the mess in the private room, could only reluctantly squeeze a smile and support the drunken man who was full of alcohol. Wang Dalai disregarded their expressions and swaggered out of the bar, walking crookedly on the path home. The bright moonlight is covered by dense dark clouds, and the raging wind accompanies the flickering street lights. Wang Dalai's shadow was stretched longer and longer by the street lights, until a complete humanoid black figure appeared behind him, his face blurred, and only the crimson eyes exposed could be seen. Before Wang Dalai could react, number one picked up a brick on the street and smashed it fiercely at Wang Dalai's bald head. Just hear a clang. Wang Dalai fell into a pool of blood before even shouting his voice. Early the next morning, Jiang Lin swiped one local news special report after another from his phone, the largest local snake king, Dalai, died tragically on the street. Evil brings retribution. Wang Dalai is afraid of becoming a vegetative due to brain damage. Wang Dalai's county magistrate's father revealed to our reporter that he wants the mastermind to be paid with blood. Jiang Lin was brushing his teeth and flipping through the comments below. He already had a good understanding of how much Wang Dalai was hated by people on a daily basis. On weekdays, relying on their father's identity as the county magistrate, they bully men and women, committing all sorts of evil deeds. As for why these father and son are so bold and arrogant, it may be because the emperor of Pao'an County is far away and cannot be controlled by the imperial headquarters. Jiang Lin is very grateful that he has eradicated a recognized calamity. After all, this is his first act of murder. After finishing breakfast and packing up, Jiang Lin looked in the mirror at his long-sleeved body paired with a custom-made high-end black suit, and his sharp and angular face, very satisfied. Subsequently, Jiang Lin directly approached the largest yak farmer in the local area, booked a supply of 3,000 yak beef sources with him, and arranged for lawyers to sign relevant agreements. He generously paid a deposit of 3 million yuan in advance. In the agreement, Jiang Lin agreed with the boss that when the yaks grow up next spring, the slaughtered meat will be transported to Jiang Lin's location as soon as possible. As for the specific matters, Jiang Lin made an excuse to postpone the payment, only to ensure that the final payment would be delivered on time. The owner of the slaughterhouse didn't say much to Jiang Lin, who was such a big customer, and just kept inviting him to stay for dinner. The reason why Jiang Lin did this is actually because he had a big plan. He didn't just want these 3,000 yaks, he wanted the entire yak of Pao'an County. Turns out, the reason he spent these 3 million was just to confuse others and clear his own suspicions in the evening, after the dinner party. The owner of the slaughterhouse and Jiang Lin said goodbye with satisfied smiles on their faces. The first thing Jiang Lin did when he returned to the hotel was to summon numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 and give them instructions to kill all the yaks in Pao'an County overnight. Jiang Lin's great confidence is also for a reason, because he realized that when he upgraded from the first level of Shadow Guard to the second level of Shadow Guard, not only did the number of shadow slaves increase exponentially, but their various body indices also increased significantly, like a snowball rolling. It would get bigger and bigger. Go. As soon as the words fell, 4 black shadows merged into the darkness and attacked their respective targets. Others may not be able to see it, but in the eyes of the extraordinary, countless pure white soul powers can be seen surging out of the thousands of households in Pao'an County under the night sky, flowing into the body of Jiang Lin like a river flowing into the sea. About 2 hours later, Jiang Lin took out the shadow book again, and after dripping blood, checked the progress. Congratulations, Jiang Lin. Promoted to the 3rd level Shadow Guard, the number of shadow servants you can summon has increased to 8. Congratulations, Jiang Lin. Promoted to the 4th level Shadow Guard, the number of shadow slaves you can summon has increased to 16. Congratulations, Jiang Lin. Promoted to the 5th level Shadow Guard, the number of shadow servants you can summon has increased to 32, and you have gained the ability to gather shadows and turn into blades. Jiang Lin is quite curious about the ability that appeared first, and according to the information provided by the shadow book to himself. Jiang Lin extended his right hand, his mind twitching slightly, and as the black shadow wrapped around him, a lacquered black samurai sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Jiang Lin took a white towel from the bathroom, threw it into the air, and used a samurai sword to cut it horizontally. Immediately, the towel was neatly divided in 2. How sharp! I'm afraid even a real samurai sword is just that, isn't it? Jiang Lin was very excited as he stroked the solid black blade back. Based on past experience, this skill of gathering shadows into blades should not be limited to himself. As his class rose, his shadow slaves' combat power and skills would also be updated accordingly. Apart from the 4 shadow slaves already dispatched, Jiang Lin can still summon 28 more now. Come out now, with the voice of Jiang Lin, One black shadow after another emerged from the shadow of Jiang Lin's body and slowly condensed into one after another human-shaped black shadows, waiting for all the staff to arrive. Jiang Lin asked the shadow slave closest to him to demonstrate his skill of gathering shadows into a blade, and the result was as expected by Jiang Lin. Follow my instructions. Jiang Lin gave his commands to all the shadow slaves, and in an instant, the entire Pao'an county seemed to be shrouded in darkness, with a large number of black shadows pouring out from the room where Jiang Lin was located.